This is the BLUETTI AC50B portable power station. I've had this for a bit now, and a few people ask me about it, so here's my take. It's basically a small battery box with a built-in inverter, meant for the times you want regular wall-style power, but you're not near an outlet, or you don't trust the outlet to stay on. I've used it for a mix of stuff, working off a laptop away from my desk, keeping my router running during quick outages, charging camera batteries on a trip, and covering small comforts when I'm outside for a while. If you're trying to run a full-size fridge all day or power a bunch of kitchen appliances back to back, this isn't that kind of unit. It's more for short stretches, smaller devices, and I just need power for this one situation moments. What made me pay attention to this one is how it charges from the wall. A lot of portable power stations still use a big external power brick, which I always end up misplacing or tangling in a bag. On this one, I just plug the AC cable straight into the side and charge it. And it can charge fast when you want it to. I don't run the fast mode every single time, but it's been useful when I realize I forgot to top it off and I need it the same day. Physically, it's compact for what it does. It's not pocketable, obviously, but it's the kind of size I can grab with one hand and move from room to room. It weighs about 15 pounds, and that sounds light until you're carrying it across a campsite or from a parking lot to a cabin. The handle works, but I'll be honest, the way it's placed makes the unit tilt a little when I walk, so it bumps my leg more than I want. Not a deal breaker, just mildly annoying if you're moving it often. Build-wise, it feels like the kind of plastic that won't look perfect forever, but also won't crack the first time it gets scuffed. Mine has been on the floor of my car, on a dusty garage shelf, and on a wooden picnic table. It's held up fine. The vents are large, and when the fan kicks on, you can tell it's moving air. When it's charging quickly, or when I'm pulling a few hundred watts for a while, I do hear the fan. It's not a whine, more of a steady airflow sound, but it's not silent in those moments. If I'm recording audio nearby, I notice it. On the front, the screen is the part I interact with the most. It gives me the basic stuff I actually need. How much power is going out, how much is coming in, battery percentage, and an estimate for time remaining. The time estimate bounces around depending on what you plug in, but that's normal. It's still helpful when I'm deciding whether to keep something running or switch to a lower draw. Port layout is pretty straightforward. I use the USB-C ports constantly, because they'll run my laptop without needing the AC inverter on. That matters, because leaving the inverter on when you don't need it wastes power. In real use, I found this thing rewards you for being practical. If I'm just charging phones, earbuds, a tablet, camera batteries, anything that can take USB-C, I stick to DC output, and I get noticeably better longevity. For setup, there isn't much to it. I charged it to full when it arrived. Then I did what I always do with batteries like this. I ran it down with a normal load and charged it again, just to get a feel for how the meter behaves. After that, it's been predictable. I keep it around the house at a partial charge most of the time, and when I know I'm traveling, I top it off. One of my most common real-life uses has been treating it like a buffer for my home office. I'm not using it as a full-time UPS replacement for a server rack or anything, but for a router, modem, and my laptop charger, it's been solid. I've had a couple quick power flickers where normally the router would reboot and I'd lose my connection. With this in the chain, everything stayed on. I didn't have to think about it, which is kind of the point. For travel, I used it on a road trip where I was charging camera batteries at night, topping off my phone, and running a laptop for photo backups. The capacity is 448 watt-hours, and in practice you don't get all of that as usable AC power once you factor in inverter loss. So I treat it like enough for the essentials, not enough to be careless. If I'm charging over USB-C, it feels like it stretches further. If I'm running AC for something like a small fan plus a laptop brick, I watch the wattage and the remaining time, because you can burn through it faster than you think. I also tested it with a few higher draw items, just to see where the ceiling feels like it is. It's rated for 700 watts continuous on AC output. That number matters because it tells you what it won't do. Anything with a heating element can push you over pretty quickly. There is a power lifting behavior where it can run some resistive loads that are rated higher by effectively lowering the voltage so the device draws less power. I tried it with a travel kettle. It did work, but it was slower, and it's the kind of thing I'd only use when I understand what I'm trading off. It's not a magic mode that makes it a bigger inverter, and it won't help with everything. With motors and certain power tools, if the startup surge is too high or the load isn't the right type, it'll just shut down to protect itself. That's actually what I want it to do. I'd rather it stop than cook itself. Charging is where my day-to-day impression has been mostly positive. Plugged into the wall, I can charge it normally when I don't care about speed, and I can push it faster when I do. When I used the faster charging setting, it went from low to around 80% in about the time it took me to pack gear and clean up, which matched my experience pretty closely to the claimed 45 minutes. The trade-off is more fan noise and more heat, so I don't do that in a silent room if I can avoid it. Solar charging works fine, with the usual real-life conditions applying. Panel angle matters, clouds matter, and you're not going to see the panel's full rating most of the day. I used a 200-watt panel and saw inputs that hovered around the high hundreds in good sun. It was enough to feel like I could refill it over a few hours, while also charging small stuff. If you're expecting solar to be effortless, it never is. But the unit did what it was supposed to do and didn't act picky about intermittent input. The app is a nice to have, not something I want to depend on. I like being able to toggle charging modes without kneeling next to the unit, and I like checking input-output when the power station is tucked in a corner. Bluetooth has been stable for me. I don't use it constantly, but it's useful for enabling the faster AC charging when I actually need it. I will say, I prefer devices that are fully usable without any app at all, and this one is. The app adds convenience, but the basic controls are right on the unit. A couple small complaints after living with it. I wish there were more than one USB-A port because I still have a few older accessories that want USB-A, and I don't always want to carry adapters. The top is flat and ends up being a place you set your phone anyway, and it made me realize how often I'd use wireless charging if it were there. Also, the AC and USB ports don't have covers, so if you're the type to take this into sand or heavy dust, you'll want to be a bit careful about how you place it and store it. On the reliability side, mine has been consistent. The battery meter has behaved, the AC output hasn't randomly cut out, and it hasn't done anything weird when it's been sitting unused for a couple weeks. I do recommend the boring stuff. Don't store it at zero, and if you're not using it for a while, check it every so often and keep it at a partial charge. So overall, my impression is this is a practical, mid-size portable power station that fits real use cases like camping weekends, road trips, and short home backup situations. It's portable enough that I actually move it around and use it, and it charges fast enough that I'm not constantly planning my life around refilling it. The limits are the limits. 448 watt-hours goes quicker with AC loads, and 700 watts means you need to be realistic about what you plug in. If your expectations match what it's built for, it's been an easy thing to live with. I'll leave the details about the BLUETTI AC50B portable power station in the comments for you to check out.